Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is session NET312. HBO Max achieves scale and performance with Amazon CloudFront. My name is Tal Shalom. I'm a principal product manager with the Amazon CloudFront service team. Today, I'm excited to be joined by two guests from the HBO Max team. Jay and Vikrant, I let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jay Boyce-Rank. I'm the Director of Engineering for Video Backend Systems at Warner Brothers Discovery, and really excited to be sharing our journey with CloudFront with you today.
Hello everyone, my name is Vikrant Kelkar, and I'm Staff Software Engineer at Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm responsible for CDN strategy, architecture, implementation, and operations. And I'm very excited to be here at AWS re:Invent.
Thank you. We have a packed agenda for you in this session. In the first part, I will be focusing on how you can optimize your media delivery for improved quality of experience to your viewers. I will talk about some best practices for your media delivery in configuring CloudFront and overall delivery. I'll talk about how you can test those configurations before you apply them to production. And I will share with you some new options for support from CloudFront. In the second part, Jay and Vikrant will take the stage and share with you HBO Max's journey with CloudFront. They will talk about some telemetrics measurements they take to improve their quality of experience. And finally, they will share some of the features and capabilities they're exploring with CloudFront going into 2023. To start, let's take a moment and look back at the 60 years evolution of how we consume our media. From the real playback tape in the 60s to today handheld device, and how the user experience and the expectation evolve through time. So in the late 70s and in the 80s, we had the VCR that brought movies of our choice to the living room. And then at the 90s, the DVD enhanced the experience with widescreen videos, movies, and 8 channels of digital audio, camera angles, multilingual, and more. And then in the late 90s and the 2000s, digital media became popular as a downloadable content to our PCs and laptops. And today, we can walk with our mobile phone and watch almost any favorite content of ours from anywhere, almost from anywhere, thanks to high-speed networks and cloud-enabled solutions that allow new experiences for media delivery. Now, to reach that or achieve that user experience, the quality of experience for our viewers, there are multiple considerations we need to take. There are a few fundamentals considerations, which are performance, scale, and availability of the network that connects the viewers to the content. AWS continue investing in expanding Amazon CloudFront network. And today we have 450 points of presence globally with 13 regional edge locations. Those points of presence are strategically placed in locations closer to your viewers. That helps reduce the latency for delivery and enhance the quality of experience. Beyond the network and out of the network that we build and operate, we also deployed embedded POPs within ISP networks. In 2019, we deployed our first version of embedded POPs in ISP networks. That was a full rack that was deployed in different ISPs. And this year, we launched our second generation, version 2 of our embedded POPs. These are 1U servers that can be deployed deep into the ISP network, getting much closer to viewers and helping at peak sports events or game downloads and popular VOD releases. So far, this year, we deployed over 220 of those POPs, the embedded POPs. It helps us to manage traffic and also help the ISP offload some of the traffic and mitigate any issues at the last mile for the viewer. So we talked about the network, performance, scale, availability, and now let's talk about configuration. What you can do when you set up your workload, your workflow, end-to-end in order to improve the quality of experience for your viewers. Let's start on the left side with the origins. CloudFront supports origins, whether they are on AWS, you can use AWS Elemental Media Services as your origins, or if you decide to process your video on Amazon EC2, you can also set it up as your origin. If your video assets are already ready for delivery and you store them in S3, you can also have S3 as your origin. Or if you're still running your video processing or you keep your assets on an on-prem or a third-party location, you can also have that as origin. A single origin might have issues, so to maintain high availability and not to impact quality of experience, you want to have another origin as a failover. CloudFront let you set up an origin failover group with primary and secondary origins, and you set criteria for the failover between those origins. Another parameter is the option to set up CloudFront Origin Shield. CloudFront Origin Shield is another layer of caching of CloudFront from the POPs to the mid-tiers, the regional edge caches, and then another caching layer that protects your origin from overwhelming request rate that are coming from all those POPs around the world at once. So when you have Origin Shield, you can connect third-party CDNs on a multi-CDN architecture. You can connect it to CloudFront and have Origin Shield as your entry point to make the fetches from your origin, and by that, reducing your request rate to your origin. And all the requests from all the regions and the regional edge caches goes through the Origin Shield. Now, if you have two origins, you can associate two separate origin shields with your origins. Each one will be in a different region. And the reason is you want to maintain the shortest latency possible or the lowest latency possible between your origin within that region and your origin shield, because all the requests will funnel through. So if there is a failover, you still maintain low latency from that region where your origin is set up. Now, the criteria that I mentioned before about how you switch or failover between origin has multiple configuration parameters. You have connection attempts. What happens if first connection doesn't respond well? You can do a secondary. You have connection timeouts. You want to know how long to wait to a request that you send to the origin, and the keep alive timeout. Now, this is very important, especially when you decide what's your workload. So if you're choosing VOD or live, the configuration there might be completely different. And if you have adaptive bitrate, which means you have multiple renditions that you serve your content in different quality level, that also can have impact because now you make multiple requests for different resolutions, different qualities. And the one most important or most impactful parameters that will make a difference on those configuration is your video segment length. Video segment length, the video segment is one part of the video delivery. We have manifest and we have segment. The manifest basically points to your segments, and the segments are parts of the video that are packaged to be delivered. Now, the video segment length can determine how you want to set up your connection timeouts or how you want to set up your response time. In order to get it into context, let's take a use case. Let's take a low latency live video with a 4-second segment. Okay? Typically, most players will keep at least 2 segments in their buffer. If you have control on your player, then you can get some telemetry, you know exactly what's going on, but you don't always have that control on your player. But the idea is that you're trying to maintain this buffer full at all times so you don't interrupt the experience. Now, what happens if you set up a response timeout waiting for the response for 4 seconds? That means if there is any issue in the origin and it did not respond in 4 seconds, you lost a time frame of a segment in that buffer of all your viewers, and that can cause interruptions. So you want to mitigate it fast. And in order to mitigate it fast, you want to reduce the time for the response time that you wait to at least half or even less than your segment length. So let's say we set it at 2 seconds. If the origin does not respond in 2 seconds, I either want to retry or I want to failover to the other origin. That gives me enough time to make that failover, request for the other segment, send it back, and fill up that buffer without interrupting the viewer. And that's also correct to the connection attempts, meaning if I select to do 2 attempts, it means that the first time I tried, waited 2 seconds, then I do second try. If all works well, great. But if not, now it's again another 2 seconds, which means 4 seconds, which means I lost a segment time frame, right? So this is a consideration you need to take when you create your workflow in order to maintain that quality of experience and less interruptions on the viewer side. Another parameter that goes with all these settings is the manifest cache policy. In live video, the manifest gets updated with the new segments that are produced while the packager generates those segments for you. And then the new manifest will have the new segments available there. So you might think, okay, if at 4 seconds, if I'm generating those packages on the fly, then why would I need to cache the manifest? 4 seconds is a lot of time. And if you have a massive amount of viewers watching now and a lot of players making requests at the same time, this could overwhelm the origin if you're coming from different POPs. And in order to reduce that and serve faster, you want to cache that manifest. And that caching setting goes along through all CloudFront layers. So if you set it, for example, to, again, 4 seconds cache, then throughout that segment length, all the requests for that segment, for that manifest update or refreshed manifest will be within that time frame. But still, you might be stretching that window too far to that 4 seconds. So it's recommended to reduce it to at least 2 seconds, or even if you, you can do it to 1 second. It's still okay because you're going to observe most of the requests at the edge location when you make those, when the player's making those requests. Now, segment caching might be different, and it's recommended to split between your manifest caching, your expiry caching, and your segment expiry caching. For the segment, basically you can cache only to, let's say, the time frame of the segment, or twice the time frame of the segment. But if your workload allowed for the player to skim back and do playback of, let's say, the last half an hour, you might want to add more time to cache it there, so players and viewers can go back and skim to. Again, it's up to your workload how you decide to serve your content. So split between the two different cache behaviors and allow for different cache expiry parameters. Last point that I wanted to mention here is about negative caching. Negative caching is basically caching of an errors. In essence, you would say, why would I need to cache my errors? If there's an error, I'm going to re-request again, and I want the response. But again, when you're at scale and you have millions of viewers watching, those requests might be overwhelming at the origin level. And what you want to do, you want to maintain a low number or a low time of expiry caching for those negative caching, for those errors, in order to allow enough time for the origin to recover if it needs time to produce that segment or to update the refreshed manifest. So even a 1 second on an error, on a negative error caching will help a lot for players not to overwhelm the origin, not to create an overload on the network, and still maintain that time frame to allow you to make the request again and get the segment. So again, especially when you go low latency, this is important. So we spoke about the configuration. And another thing that you can consider in low latency and improving your delivery is the use of HTTP3 and QUIC. HTTP3 is the third the third major version of the HTTP standard. It's built on QUIC, which is built on UDP, and it brings few performance benefits. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. We had a session with Jim Roskind, who is the known inventor of the QUIC protocol, and you can catch it up on a replay. I think yesterday was his session. But the main advantages that this protocol allows you is basically faster connection setup. So when you have a faster connection setup, it's a faster first byte to the viewer, which means lower latency in startup time, right? And then it has improved mechanism to recover packet loss on the network, wherever the packet loss are. So that's also helping in reducing rebuffering errors on the player side. Additional enhancement is it has a mechanism to support roaming between different networks, especially for mobile or between mobile cellular network and the Wi-Fi network. It's encrypted by default with TLS 1.3, so it's also secured. And Vikrant actually is going to present some metrics that they explored and found out with their delivery with a comparison of with HTTP 3 QUIC and without. If you want to set up HTTP3, it's very simple, either through CloudFront console. You can just check the box for enabling HTTP3, or you can do it through CLI or API calls. Another functionality that I want to talk about and how to make use of is edge compute. If you're thinking about shifting functionality from your origin to the edge, CloudFront provides you two options to use edge compute. One is Lambda at Edge, which is typically used for a more complex, longer running functionality. For example, you can fetch a manifest, or you can take a manifest and do some manipulation. You can add, if you have ads, some type of an advertisement that you want to basically embed into a manifest, you can do that and then serve it. Or if you want to do some personalization for a specific user based on the user ID, you can do it also. Lambda at Edge has the option to make network calls. So you can call other services. For example, you can call AWS Elemental Media Convert and do transcoding on the fly if you need. You can also collect metrics and send them to a to an analysis system, a different service that collects your analytics for the requests that are coming in. If you have custom headers or if you have custom query string, you can pick that and send that information to another system that you're collecting your metrics. For a more, let's say, low latency or latency sensitive functionality, we also have CloudFront functions. CloudFront functions, it's a very fast execution function that runs at the edge. It's no more than 1 millisecond execution. That's the runtime for it. And it's for really lightweight functionality. For example, if you need to rewrite the URL, if you need to validate a token, you can also do that with CloudFront function, and then make a decision if you want to pass it, or you can send a redirect to a login system. You can do header manipulation, or you can, again, do redirect for any other purpose right there from the origin. So you can shift that functionality from your origin to the edge. So we spoke about all those great features and how you can use them to improve quality of experience. But you have your traffic running in production, and you want to test changes before you're actually making the change. And for that, last week, we launched our CloudFront continuous deployment. This is a new feature of CloudFront that allows you to create a staging environment with configuration, different configuration. And the nice part that you can select which traffic you want to send to that staging environment. So you can decide if you want to do it based on IP, and then you have kind of an A/B environment, or you can decide to send a certain percentage of traffic or with a hinted header. And that allows you to test your new configuration, check how it impacts the quality of experience on your viewers, and then if everything works as intended, you can apply that to your production environment. And the good thing is you don't need to change your DNS. You don't need to create a completely new environment. You can use the same DNS that you're using for your production traffic. So this is the latest release from CloudFront. And last, I want to mention here the new support option for live events and premiere releases. We have in the AWS Elemental team, we have a team that is media event management that supports event from A to Z helping you set up the encoders, setting the, all the workflow until delivery. And recently, we added specialized team that supports CloudFront. So now you have a full support from the ingest of the video all the way to delivery. The team will work with you prior to your event. They will look at your configuration, architecture, recommend some best practices. And then during the event, they will be looking at dashboards. If you have a war room, they can be on that war room and work with you. They have access to different internal configuration of CloudFront. They have access, immediate access to our engineering team. And after the event, they will work with you on a retrospective reports, what happened, if anything need to be changed for the future or future event. So there is a link at the bottom. If you want to connect with that team, please go to that link and reach out to us. And now I'm going to hand over the stage to Jay and Vikrant to tell you about HBO Max journey with CloudFront.
Thank you, Tal. Vikrant and I are going to now walk you through the HBO Max journey with CloudFront, including how we use it as part of our multi-CDN strategy and how we use it to manage and prepare for large-scale events like House of the Dragon. So I want to start by introducing you to HBO Max. HBO Max builds on the legacy of HBO. HBO just celebrated their 50th anniversary. We're really proud of that. And during those 50 years, HBO has become synonymous with quality premium content, shows like The Sopranos and Game of Thrones. And the focus of the premium content has been something that we wanted to bring the user experience to match that. So HBO Max, the purpose of HBO Max was to introduce a premium user experience to match that premium content. If you don't remember anything else from this slide, remember premium user experience is what we're all about. HBO stands for home box office. It's about bringing the box office experience into your home. And everything we do, it's in our DNA and how we think about solving every problem. How do we make sure the users have a premium experience? There's a few other numbers on here. So we have about 95 million subscribers. That's HBO Max and Discovery Plus combined. We're now part of Warner Brothers Discovery, and we report our numbers as a combined subscriber number. We have both ad-supported and ad-free tiers. We're in 61 countries across the world. We have both VOD and live streaming support and more than 13,000 hours of programming. Now I'd like to walk you through a few key milestones in the history of HBO Max. We'll start with launch. And you notice the headline of launch here is direct-to-consumer takes center stage. What that meant for us was historically we had other streaming options for HBO. We had HBO Go, HBO Now, but they were really just supplemental to other methods of streaming and consuming HBO content. When AT&T acquired Time Warner and HBO as part of that, they shifted our strategy so that we wanted to match that premium content, as I mentioned, with a premium user experience. And the focus then was on how do we build this new premium user experience from the ground up to take advantage of not just the HBO content, but also the deep content from Warner Brothers and from Turner catalogs. So as you see, the launch there was May 2020. We had been working for months on getting ready for this launch, had all our war rooms planned, meetings planned. Of course, you all know, March of 2020, we all got sent home. The date didn't change. We still were going to launch in the same date, so we had to quickly pivot all of our strategies from launching in war rooms to launching remotely. We're looking at each other's in cameras. We're all used to that now, but at that time it was completely new and a very different experience. And we managed to pull this off. The launch launched on the day we wanted it to launch. It was one of the smoothest launches that I've been part of, so very proud of that. The next point I want to talk about is what we call popcorn. And Popcorn was supporting the day-and-date releases of all the Warner Brothers 2021 movie slate on HBO Max. So the same time it launched in theaters, it launched on HBO Max. And it actually kicked off with Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day of 2020. In order to support this new capability or this new initiative, we introduced a whole bunch of new capabilities and immersive experiences in the product. We introduced HDR, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. I'm feeding back a little bit. The whole idea of this was to make sure, again, bringing that box office experience into your home. It was a crazy time. That's a lot of new technology, a lot of new work. It was on our roadmap, but not for this time period. And with the announcement of this, we shifted our strategy, focused on this. In the tech industry, most of the time, during November and December, that's a time when you can combine holidays and vacation and kind of rewind and get a chance to unwind and get ready for the next year. That was not the case for us at all that year. We focused long hours, long days, right through Christmas Day. And when many of you were opening presents with your kids on Christmas morning, we were all huddled over our computers watching dashboards to make sure the launch was as successful as it could be. And it was. The next two bullets, next two time periods here, ad tier and global, we're all about expanding the capabilities, the subscriber base for HBO and HBO Max. You'll notice it's not a typo that they both say June 2021. Originally, they were supposed to be spaced far apart, but that popcorn thing I talked about got in the way and shifted us off to the right. Unfortunately, the other side didn't shift, so we ended up with everything in June 2021. And the ad tier required us to build, for the first time, a completely separate tier for consuming and buying HBO Max, an ad-supported tier. Included SSAI integration. We launched that at the beginning of June. At the end of June, we then switched to a global strategy. We went from a single country, the United States only, to 30 countries overnight. We launched in all of LATAM overnight, went from 1 to 30. And this required not just having new infrastructure, new capabilities in these new territories, but also handling things like making sure we did multi-language right, handling live events and live sporting events in Latin America. So a lot of things happened, very short time period, and as I mentioned, this rapid growth, this rapid timeline from May 2020 to June 2021, it's really only about a year. We had to have a very resilient, very robust CDN architecture to support that, and I'm going to turn it over to Vikrant to walk us through that.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, the HBO Max platform delivers millions of streams around the world every day. In order to support that massive volume, a solid CDN infrastructure is required so we can assure highest quality of user experience and have resiliency and redundancy when needed. Our platform is integrated with multiple CDNs, and with multi-CDN strategy, we have extended our global footprint to get closer to each user, improving latency and making our delivery cost model efficient as well. The top criterion used to onboard a CDN are, first, a CDN that's capable of handling our daily peaks as well as traffic bursts. Second, it has global presence. Third is that we get access to their premium support. And fourth is that they have right tools and feature set to accommodate our operational needs. We are very happy to have CloudFront as one of our key CDN provider that delivers millions of streams around the world. CloudFront has strategically spread out edge network and to support necessary bandwidth. They also provide premium support and event support. While we are using CloudFront for many years, HBO Max infrastructure has been running on AWS Cloud as well. Our journey with CloudFront started with HBO Max's predecessor platforms, HBO Go and HBO Now. In order to support Game of Thrones traffic, extensive capacity commitments were required. And after working with AWS account management team and Amazon CloudFront team, necessary capacity was made available to us within very short notice. During onboarding process, we found CloudFront to be very responsive, as we had to complete our setup and configuration in a very short time frame. We have had successful Game of Thrones season, and CloudFront continued to be our one of the trusted key CDN partner ever since. We just reviewed HBO Max's multi-CDN strategy on earlier slide. Now we are going to look at a high-level architecture on how video delivery works with integrated CDNs. So in step one, once user selects an asset for a playback, a client platform initiates a request for an asset manifest to a CDN endpoint. CDN endpoint checks if that object is in cache, and if it is fresh. If it is, then in step two, it sends that response back to the user from its cache. If that object does not exist in its cache, then it talks to its parent tier or regional edge cache to obtain copy of that object. Regional edge cache and parent tier performs same logic on object's validity. And if that object needs to be fetched or refreshed, in step three, they request that copy from the origin. Upon successful delivery for manifest object to the regional edge cache and in turn back to the client platform continues to make requests for video segments using same steps and logic until the end of play session. If origin responds with HTTP error in step 4, then CDN will go to failover origin and request copy of that object. And in step 6, that object gets delivered from failover origin, provided that object was available on failover origin. If it does not, then it will respond back with proper HTTP response. We use Amazon S3 as our video origin, where we maintain large catalog of video assets. This catalog gets replicated in other AWS regions around the globe. CloudFront and all our CDNs are configured to have secure handshake with the origin, and they are also configured to have authentication with origin to ensure that only CDNs are ingesting contents for security compliance. All our CDNs are also configured to ingest contents from failover origin in case there are connectivity issues in specific region. This is just the high-level architecture on how video on-demand delivery works using integrated CDNs. However, there is a lot that goes on behind the scene, and Jay is going to walk us through on some of these complexities that works behind the scene.
Thank you, Vikrant. So there's a lot going on this slide, so we're going to take some time to unpack it, but I really want you to get two messages out of this. All these video services in the back here are really trying to accomplish two things. They're trying to get the right CDN and the right manifest. And both of those have the same goal, and that's, again, to ensure the premium user experience. So what does the right CDN means? It means a CDN that's able to continuously provide a good experience to the user, provide the content that they need, no latency, no lag. And what does the right manifest mean? The right manifest means the best user experience that we can give that user for their specific device, specific network conditions. We would love everybody to watch everything in Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. It's a fantastic experience, but the reality is that not every device, not every network supports that. So now, just we walk through this. I'll walk through it kind of one step at a time. Okay, I lied. Two came on at the same time there, but they happen at the same time. That's getting ready for the actual playback experience. It's really just wanted to let you know how this content ingestion has two parts to it. We ingest the video itself and the manifests, and those go to our S3 origin, as Vikrant described. but at the same time, we ingest metadata about that video and about that manifest. The codecs that are available, the languages, the run links. There's a lot of information about that gets ingested into our video URL service, and it stores that for later use. And now we shift your focus back over to the right-hand side here, and you see a kind of a crude-looking phone, but that's our user. And our user's looking through, trying to decide what they want to play. They find a video they want to watch. They want to watch Sopranos Season 1, Episode 1. An excellent choice. It's a fantastic series, one of my favorite. So they push the button, that play button that Tal mentioned earlier, and hopefully things play. The first thing that happens is a request goes back to our video URL service. And the client says, hey, video URL service. This user wants to play Sopranos Season 1, Episode 1, and here's information about their device and their network and all the things that might impact your decision on how you want to play that for them. The video URL service says, okay, yeah, I know about Sopranos Season 1, Episode 1. Let me find the metadata for it. Now I need to make sure I get the two things that I want to get, the right CDN and the right manifest. So I'm going to actually go back and ask my CDN service, hey, CDN service, I've got this user, he wants to play some video. Here's information about his device, his network, his location. CDN service uses all of that, looks at a lot of different parameters that we monitor, returns back a list and says, here's the CDN that I would like you to use. So now the video URL service now has the right CDN. So it's got half of what it needs. It knows about a lot of things about how a device and the capabilities of the device and the networks all interact with each other. So it builds up a parameter list and says, okay, here's the basic URL that describes everything about that manifest, and here's a set of parameters that will tell our dynamic manifest service how to filter that. And that gets then, whoops, there's my wrong button, push. That then goes forward back to the client with all that information in it. The client then requests the manifest. The manifest request goes toward our dynamic manifest service. Most of the time, it's actually fronted by CloudFront. Most of the time, that manifest is actually returned out of the cache. But in this case, nobody's watched Sopranos Season 1 episode in a while. And so that gets forwarded on to our dynamic manifest service, which then requests that master manifest that has everything in it, every possibility that video could have in it. It filters that manifest, builds the right manifest, returns the right manifest back via CloudFront to the device, and then the user is able to then continue just with a normal path, request the playback from the right CDN with the right videos. CDN, if it needs to, pulls from the origin. Ideally, it has it cached, and the user is now able to enjoy James Gandolfini and all his glory. So the next steps are now really about how do we choose the right CDN, and I'm going to hand it over to Vikrant to talk about some of the metrics we use to pick the right CDN and monitor our CDNs.
Thank you, Jay. We all know how important it is to monitor metrics for today's businesses. It is extremely essential to monitor video health and CDN health for the HBO Max platform. HBO Max platform uses its homegrown monitoring and alerting solution, and this solution is also hosted on AWS and uses Grafana for its dashboard. Metrics is collected from client platforms, and these metrics are calculated in real time. In current example, these data points are broken down by CDN. However, these data points can also be broken down by many different dimensions, like user geography, ISP, ASN, device metadata, asset metadata, or even user metadata. We are going to look at few of these key metrics. Those are extremely essential to ensure that we are providing highest quality of user experience to our users. So the first metric we are going to look at is video start failure. I don't know why this clicker is not working. Oh, here we go. Video start failure. This KPI provides us insight into how many failures happen during startup. There are many components involved in video startup. There could be device-related issues, there could be network-related issues, there could be application-related issue, codec issues, DRM issues, or even entitlement issues. So error code needs to be generated in order to mark a session to be a failure. Similarly, for video playback failure, when playback was in pause state and was reinitiated, we closely monitor failures around those resume playbacks. So similar to video start failure, error code needs to be generated by some endpoint to tag that session as a failure. For both of these metrics, lower the value increases the success rate. So that's what we usually look for. Next one is exit before video start is user behavior. Sometimes it takes longer than normal to start the video because there were delays by some endpoint. And we closely monitor which endpoints are causing those delays and try to fix them or mitigate them based upon where those delays are coming from. Rebuffering ratio, there is always an initial buffering event to maintain player's buffer to have smooth and consistent playback. However, rebuffering ratio calculates if there are any additional delays in downloading video segments. So for this metric, lower the value, better it is, better experience for our users. Video startup time. This KPI provides us data into how long did it take to play first frame of the video on the playback. So lower the value ensures greater cache hits for objects as well as low latency in network bandwidth. So again, lower the value ensures videos are starting very quickly for our customers. For average bitrate, in adaptive bitrate delivery, we would like our users to play video at highest bitrate possible. So highest bitrate that translates into highest quality of video playback. So for this metric, higher the value, better it is. All these metrics are a balancing act. For example, if we want to lower our video start time or rebuffering time, bitrate stack array can be lowered to lower bitrates. However, that will be a trade-off for the quality, and we make no compromises on the quality of video in HBO Max world. All these metrics are also part of our alerting system, where if metric goes beyond certain thresholds, alert gets triggered to our on-call engineer, and once alert is received by on-call engineer, he takes a deep dive into data using many different dimensions that I mentioned earlier. And once root cause is identified, engineer applies proper mitigation based upon our runbooks. So for these metrics, overall consistency is important. And you can see CloudFront, which is in color orange here, is having consistent performance for all these key metrics. Beyond these video and CDN metrics, we also monitor metrics on CDN side, like cache hit ratio or responses by HTTP status code, response times, origin ingestion bandwidth, or peak throughput at the edge. So quality of performance is paramount for media businesses. And to stay ahead of the curve, HBO Max always evolves in improving our performance and our customers' experience. This year, we enabled Quick on select CDNs for our supported clients. We closely partnered with Amazon CloudFront team and enabled Quick on all our CloudFront distributions for both video on demand as well as live. The adoption rate by our clients was up to 10%, and you can see how Quick made difference into customer experience in terms of rebuffering ratio and video start time. So each color on this graph represents a different CDN, and it's easy to spot that rebuffering is higher on the CDN that currently does not support QUIC protocol. So you can see this is a CDN, currently doesn't support QUIC and is having much higher rebuffering ratio. We are, on this slide, we are going to look at a couple interesting traffic patterns. So the graph on your left-hand side is for our live stream sport event in Latin America, where 6 games were scheduled in a time window. An event was kicked off by first 2 simultaneous games in the beginning. And when those games were about to finish, additional 4 simultaneous games, they were kicked off. And as you can see, it created an interesting tidal viewership pattern with the concurrent plays. Can anybody guess where first 2 games ended and next 4 games were about to start? Any guesses? Everybody's silent. Yep, let's see. So that's where first 2 games ended, and right around 2:40ish, and next 4 games kicked off and kept climbing viewership. Can you also guess where the halftime happened? And yep, right at 4 o'clock. That's where halftime again ended, and actually game probably got more interesting as viewership just kept climbing. On the right-hand side, that's the graph represents for HBO Max's primetime hours versus HBO Max's primetime releases. So the color light blue represents for HBO Max's primetime hours, where you see the linear traffic growth for our BAU traffic, as compared to color purple, shows a thundering traffic burst for shows like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or Euphoria, to name the few. And you can see at schedule time, viewership just kept climbing and it created a huge spike. And when it was at the peak, created a tentpole pattern. To meet these massive spikes in demand, HBO Max team works through the logistics for months in advance, leading up to the event. Based upon projections and historical data, required capacity is calculated, and team ensures that this capacity is preemptively scaled in many different layers of our platform. We also need to make sure that CDN capacity is available to support these peaks. We closely partnered with Amazon CloudFront team and developed a semi-automated pre-warming process for our high-profile events. AWS infrastructure event management team, along with AWS account management team and solution architects, work with our infrastructure team to make sure that we are prepared for these high-profile events. AWS media event management team provided us beta access during House of the Dragon for CloudFront delivery. Next, Jay is going to talk about what we'll be looking forward to from CloudFront as well as from the HBO Max platform.
All right, normally might be a lot more stuff here on our roadmap, but we're at an interesting time in our merger of the companies. So Warner Media Discovery merged and became Warner Brothers Discovery. As part of that, we have a new strategy now that's really going to be focused on taking the catalog from HBO Max, the catalog from Discovery Plus, combining them into this new enhanced user experience that'll be launching next year. So that's really where a lot of our focus is at. And that will be where we go from that point, we'll continue our launches into the rest of the world. I did want to highlight one additional thing. One of the things Tal brought up was the configuration management, the blue-green deployment. We're looking forward to that, and we're glad that it launched. It's going to really help us simplify how we manage configuration changes, and on CloudFront specifically, so that we can test things in a staging environment or on a small percentage of traffic before we roll it out to the full production. So that's something I think is really key. But I don't want to leave you just with this, hey, there's not a whole lot on our roadmap. I can't tell you about a lot of these details right now. So we do have a sizzle reel for you to just tell you a little bit about what's up on HBO Max.
Our worth is not given. It must be made. You have no idea what loss is.
It's very intoxicating.
To bend the rules. Color outside the lines.
Would you be interested in having an affair?
Oh, wow! Surprise! This is gonna be one of the best nights of my life!
What are we doing?
Changing the world.
That's right.
We're pushing forward!
I'm always chasing the music. I have the drive, I have the passion.
Thank you, Jay and Vikrant. This was so exciting, and thank you for sharing all this journey and the metrics and everything that you have done so far to deliver this quality of experience to your users. Thank you, everyone. We can take questions now, and if you want to learn more about CloudFront with media delivery, this is the link to check out. If there's any questions, you're welcome to ask. We're also going to stay here a few minutes after, so you can meet us off the stage. And don't forget to check the survey in your mobile app. Thank you again for joining.